spirit of this revolution is not going away.
This is the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, and Chris Rossini.
We are all ambassadors of the Ron Paul doctrine, and it's so simple. Just tell the truth.
An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Doing well, well.
Good, excellent.
We'll try to figure out how the military is doing, and the world's doing, and what the people are even thinking. So we have a few items there that are pretty interesting. But we're going to start off with an article from Zero Hedge. Our friends at Zero Hedge seems to be on top of this and has a lot of information available to us. But their headline that we picked here to start with, Daniel, is has to do with the cheerleading of the president. Yeah. He's pretty good at it. He influences a lot of people, but it doesn't. One thing we don't know, and he doesn't know either. At least he's not admitted. Maybe there's limitations on just cheerleading. Maybe you have to have something more than that. But the quote is from quote, "We will easily prevail in Iran wars, vows, quote, whatever it takes."
I remember that from the old days.
Yeah.
Iraq.
In open-ended timeline. You know, there's been discussion in the media, probably fairly discussed. He's not very precise, you know, exactly why we're there, what we're doing, how long it's going to last. And I always amazed that, in spite of some of the shortcomings on how we got in World War II and won, the whole thing is that there was an attitude that you were supposed to do things properly, like ask the people what they want. Should they declare war? Influence the Congress? Have a vote? And then, for some reason, that seems to have helped in resolving. They knew what happened. And the people were behind them. And it was pretty amazing on the military victory that was at that time. But what about in recent years? Whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Venezuela, all these places, it goes on and on. Ukraine, another example, and it never stops. Now they have to contend with this, and yet once again, a month ago it was, you know, if we have to go in there, that's stuck soup. There's no trouble at all. But now, I think that headline tells us there's a little bit of a concern. We're going to do it. We're going to take care of it, what the president said, and we'll do whatever it takes. Well, that means 2 weeks or a month. Oh, yeah, he's already said it could be a month. And now they don't know how long it's going to last. And other things that are hinting, I think the American people ought to be awakened to, and that is that we may have to send some troops on the ground over there. We've already had some of our military personnel killed, but the whole thing is there's if the troops are put on the ground and the war is lasting a lot longer, then there's the panic. And I remember the panic that Johnson had when he threw in the towel really over Vietnam. He says, he says, I don't want to ever be the first president to lose a war. Mm-hmm. So stay in, do it, do whatever you have to do to satisfy the people who are for the war. The one statistic that I'd be concerned about is how emotionally strong the American people are about supporting the militarism here, and yet I think we'll have a polling that we can mention. Maybe that's not as solid as they might think.
Well, I think this is being proposed to look like a show of strength, but it actually feels like a show of weakness, because the intention was we're going to do a decapitation strike. They will have a revolution. As we said yesterday, the people just can't wait to get out in the streets and overthrow their government so they can be just like us. They'll get out in the streets, they'll overthrow it, and we'll be done, and it'll be a one and done, just like in Venezuela. Well, that didn't happen. The people went in the streets and they supported the government. They were furious that we killed their religious leader, like killing a pope. That's not kosher. So people were mad. So this almost comes across as, okay, it didn't go that first time. And there's actually some media out there yesterday saying that Trump initially wanted a quick one and done like he did in Venezuela, but J.D. Vance urged him to go deeper and heavier. If that's the case, then he listened to Vance. But if you go to that first clip, now they changed the headlines on us at Hedge. It's kind of annoying when they do that. But anyway, here's the part that we're talking about. He said, "Will easily prevail." Well, that's debatable already. U.S. forces have knocked out 10 ships. Well, they've got dozens more. But what's next? He gave a timeline of a projected 4 or 5 weeks for war with Iran. But we can go longer. He says this will involve whatever it takes. He vowed to continue the mission with unyielding resolve, even amid, and this is important, reports that U.S. Gulf allies UAE and Qatar are now lobbying allies to persuade Trump to end the war soon. They don't want to have another one open-ended conflict. So it's a serious problem they're having right now. They're trying to put the best spin on it, but that's not really the case. And as you say, this was an interesting admission, and this should get Americans' attention. If you go to the next one, this is what he said yesterday. He says he does not rule out sending ground troops to Iran. Quote, "I don't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground. Like every president says there'll be no boots on the ground, I don't say it," he said after launching strikes on Saturday. That is going to be something that's of concern. We've already had a reported 6 people killed, 6 of our service members killed in this. A lot of people are saying there's probably a lot more. A lot more things have been stricken. There have been some reports, unconfirmed, that we could be talking into the hundreds already dead.
You know, even as recently as a week ago, they were talking about this looks like an opportune time that we, finish the job in Cuba. They were lining up Cuba for overthrowing that government. But I think in the last couple of days, I haven't heard that because we've heard more that their conversation and their tones have changed because they're worried about it, and rightfully so. I imagine some of them go in there believing they have to believe their own lies. And then also they are responding to pressures from the special interests who have something to benefit by constant wars and taking over these countries. So there's I think a sense of a shift in attitude and some of the things going on here that doesn't mean this is going to be, they already admit not a week, maybe 2 weeks, now maybe a month. And now the headline I read, it looks like no estimate, whatever it takes. So, and the irony of it is that the weapon system, it's interesting that a small, poor country could take it, getting involved with America. Nobody should think they could challenge the technology, and yet it looks like efficiency and the amount of money spent is being done by the Iranians, and not by the United States. Absolutely. I want to shout out to Joe Max for that $4.99 super chat. We really appreciate that on YouTube. Thanks a lot, and please keep them coming. Now, if we go to this next one, now this is a post that President Trump made on his social media, and this is the same sort of thing. He's trying to convey the impression of overconfidence, superabundance. We got this, guys, no problem. But if you read between the lines, I think it's telling a different story. If you go to that next clip, he says the United States munition stockpiles have, at the medium and upper medium grade, never been higher or better. As was stated to me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever and very successfully. That sounds like hubris, Dr. Paul. Using just these supplies, which are better than other countries' finest arms. At the highest end, we have a good supply, but we're not where we want to be.
much additional high-grade weaponry is stored for us in outlying countries. Sleepy Joe Biden spent all of his time and our country's money giving away everything to P.T. Barnum, Zelensky in Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what that does say actually is, well, we didn't pack enough missiles. You say, we got plenty of them. This can go on forever. They just happen to be in other parts of the world. Well, that means you thought you brought enough, but you haven't, and now you're going to have to scramble to get these additional weapons. And the other thing I think that undermines this extreme confidence, yeah, they are blowing things up in Iran. I've watched it for many, many hours, woke up at 4 a.m. watching things. They're definitely blowing things up, but every single U.S. base in the region is blown up, is gone. And the U.S. ships that are there that are supplying the Tomahawks and the Patriot missiles to knock down these missiles, they're running out of missiles. They can only hold a certain amount, and they cannot fuel the missiles. They cannot replace the missiles at sea. They have to go to a dock. Now, they would be going to Bahrain, but the dock in Bahrain is blown up. They could go to Oman. That base is blown up. So they will have to go all the way to the Indian Ocean, to Diego Garcia, our entire fleet that's there, to resupply. That's 3 days steaming out, and 3 days in, they'll be out for a week. So when the missiles on these ships are depleted, and they look to be rapidly depleting, we will lose all of the naval assets there for at least a week. Things aren't as rosy as they're trying to portray, I think.
And, another item that would support this idea that maybe they're not so sure, and they're concerned about this thing lasting and getting much bigger, because there was the State Department sent out a memo to urge Americans in 14 countries, get moving. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? And we showed those maps, and it shows how many countries around there that we have put missiles in. But when the confidence and desire to continue to support our government means that they're going to have to face up to the music too, and they already have.
Yeah.
If we have our bases in those countries that have attacked Iran and participated in that, they're going to be targeted, and but the big question is what if it's not 14? What if it's about 20 countries? What if it's a world conflict? Where are they going to go? And I think that's an admission that they're covering all their bases. They ought to, and that was a good sign. They ought to do what we talk about, and that is, why are we there?
Yeah.
Why are we going to say, why don't we leave before there's more disaster? And of course, all you get back from that is, you unpatriotic so-and-so, you don't care about America, you don't care about the troops, and just what? We're going to get rid of the worst person that ever lived, and by killing their prime minister, their president. So, and I'm sure he was no angel, but I sure don't think that Iran purposely planned and attacked America. We started that war, and the American people ought to realize that, and it is not a noble cause for them to do this. Yes, you can sort it out. We've done good things and bad things, and they have done good things and bad things, but people who purposely prepare for a major, dangerous confrontation, both militarily and economically speaking, people need to realize that this is so clear. A lot of other times we started it, and like in Ukraine, we were the top dog participant in the coup there. But that's a hard sell. But this one is admission, because they brag about it. We got that guy, and that to me probably might just, and I think we might have some evidence that might help shift the opinion of the American people.
Well, you make a really good point about this sudden notice for 14 countries. Americans, get out, because the timing of the notice is critical, because you can't get out. All of the airports in these 14 countries are shut down. You literally cannot get out. So that means They weren't planning on having this kinds of problems. They weren't planning on you not being able to get out. Otherwise, they would have told Americans day one, you need to get out, or even beforehand, you need to get out of these countries. That means things aren't going as planned. By definition, things aren't going as planned. And I'm just getting reports now that the entire American air defense at the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain has been exhausted of missiles. They've run out of missiles there, from what I'm seeing. But now the other big thing that happened yesterday that we do want to talk about, the question that's in everyone's mind, it kind of should have been in Congress's mind, but it wasn't, which is why did the U.S. attack when it attacked? What was it? And we heard everything from they were building ICBMs, that's what Trump said, complete false. They were on the verge of nuclear weapons, absolutely false. The fact that sometimes by accident, the truth comes out. And Rubio basically spilled the beans yesterday. Now go to the next, skip one clip and go to the next one, because, and I do have an audio clip for this. Rubio says the U.S. launched a war. I'll go to the next one. Now we're going to skip that one. He said U.S. launched a war against Iran because Israel was planning to attack. An admission that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu steered the U.S. into the conflict. And I do have a couple of video clips, Dr. Paul, because why don't we just listen to Rubio in his own words? And let's do that first one, starting at the 1:17 mark. And we'll hear Rubio in his own words saying this.
Casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that indeed.
So we knew the Israelis were about to attack. And if we sat there, we would get attacked in retaliation for the Israeli attack. Now go to the next one, play the whole clip. Here, he said it in several different ways. Here's another way that he said it yesterday in the same press conference. Let's listen to him explain it.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so,
proactively in a defensive way. Talk about tying yourself up in pretzels. Now, here's one comment about it, Dr. Paul. I never thought that I would be featuring Matt Walsh on the show. I've got a lot of problems with him. He's on the Daily Wire. That's where a lot of the neocons are. But he's actually, I think, nervous. If you put up that next clip, this is Matt Walsh, very right-wing, very, very pro-Trump. Matt Walsh is concerned. He said about this admission by Rubio, so he's flat out telling us that we're in a war with Iran because Israel forced our hand. This is basically the worst possible thing he could have said. And I think the White House understood yesterday the earthquake of what Rubio said, and that's why White House spokesman Carolyn Leavitt, she put out a post, if you go to the next one, no, Marco Rubio didn't claim that Israel dragged Trump into war with Iran. But the thing is, Dr. Paul, we all heard it with our own ears. That's exactly what he said.
And, you know, if that is not answered to, that means that we are very, very weak, no matter how. And, you know, sometimes weak people shout the loudest.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so if this is the case, and he's more or less admitted it, that's the case, that means that we're weak and we're being manipulated. And, you know, the American people are saying it. Why are we paying for this stuff? And they're doing it. It used to be there was always an exception. You could never even hint that maybe we weren't doing the wisest thing by spending money to have bomb and kill people in Gaza, you know, in the Middle East. And people now have shifted their opinion. That might be one of the biggest things happening right now. And this is one of our arguments over the years has been, yes, you know, the way we deal with and friends with Israel may not be the best thing for Israel.
Yeah.
And I think this is starting to show that just think we had to race in there to do it. What he's arguing, it just seems like he didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
So he came up with this idea. We had to hurry up to show him our support or whatever he was arguing.
And you could make an argument that Marco Rubio is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I've heard people make it. I wouldn't say something so rude, but people would say it. But it wasn't just Marco Rubio, Dr. Paul. I have 2 more videos I want to show you of 2 other Republican leaders saying essentially the same thing. Now, I think this first one is Tom Cotton. If we put Tom Cotton on, repeating what Rubio said, if we find that next video clip here. And I know I got you running ragged back there, but here's Tom Cotton saying the same thing, Dr. Paul.
Israel faced an existential risk, and they were prepared to strike Iran alone. If that happened, Iran was very likely to target our troops. That may address the question of why now. Why not 2 weeks ago? Why not 2 months from now? The president, though, did not want to put our troops in harm's way.
So Israel drove us into this war. Now go to this, not only him, it's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Put him up next. Now, before you play it, I want to read the comment on top if you can. This is, if you were tasked with creating the worst public explanation for attacking Iran, you could not possibly come up with something as politically toxic to all sides as, quote, we had to do it because Israel said so. That's Max Burns who wrote it. And in case you think that's being exaggerated, listen to Mike Johnson in his own words, basically saying the same thing. You might want to put that in to hear what Speaker Johnson has to say, Dr.
To me, the most critical point is that this was a defensive measure, a defensive operation. And why is that? I took some notes, and this is not classified, so I'll tell you what I think is important. Israel was determined to act in their own defense here, with or without American support. Why? Because Israel faced what they deemed to be an existential threat. Iran was building missiles at a radical and a rapid clip to the point where our allies in the region could not keep up. As you know, Iran has long vowed to take out Israel, wipe it off the map, and they have long seen that as a critical threat to their very existence. Because Israel was determined to act with or without the U.S., our commander-in-chief and the administration and the officials I just named had a very difficult decision to make. They had to evaluate the threats to the U.S., to our troops, to our installations, to our assets in the region and beyond. And they determined, because of the exquisite intelligence that we had, that if Israel fired upon Iran and took action against Iran to take out the missiles, then they would have immediately retaliated against U.S. personnel and assets. We have
you admit it.
They say his analysis was right, and I would say, wow, that to me sounds like, why don't we just go home?
Yeah.
Why are we sitting there and then get involved in this? What they're getting involved in? I mean, it makes no sense at all. We don't have a. Then they come up with the reason. Well, you don't understand. This is all defense. You know, if you're offend and start the war, start bombing people and deliberately bring on the war. This is, I think, what he's saying. We deliberately got there fast because we didn't want to miss out in the action, and we're doing it. And then for whose sake? For the people who live in Montana and California or wherever? No, it was all motivated by Netanyahu.
Yeah. It must have never crossed their minds to say, Israel, you will not strike Iran right now because our troops are going to get killed. And if you do, we're not going to back you up. Why wouldn't you just say that instead of saying, okay, well, I guess we'll go in.
Well, maybe we ought to just go home if we don't have anything to do.
Well, we're going to now because we don't have any bases left.
Can't leave now.
But one more video clip, if you'll indulge me, Dr. Paul, because this is Mark Warner. As you know, a huge hawk, a Democrat, but a big hawk, a big pro-Israel guy. And he had some really interesting comments after the same classified briefing that Speaker Johnson and the others went in. This is a pro-war, pro-Israel guy, but nevertheless said something very astonishing. If you put that last one up.
Let's also be clear. Said before, say now, there was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. We equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory.
Daniel, poor libertarian couldn't have made the statement
Exactly. That was my impression too. Yeah. It's amazing.
That's his truth wins out.
Yeah.
Slowly.
If we equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the U.S., then we are in uncharted territory. And this is a pro-Israel, pro-war member of the U.S. Senate. So,
Well, maybe he accept my argument that maybe Israel isn't always better off by us being involved in that.
Maybe,
We've been doing it for a few years, you know.
they needed someone to tell them no. Now they're getting hit. No, the last thing we do want to cover is the public opinion aspect because it doesn't look good. If you remember from the Iraq War, Dr. Paul, when the war starts, everyone's for it, rah, rah, rah.
Right.
Big, huge. Well, it's the opposite here. If you go to that Politico piece, this is just one of many reporting on the popularity. Majority of Americans oppose Trump's Iran strikes per new polling. Now, these polls came out after the war started, but before American deaths were reported. Go to that next one. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans say they oppose the decision to take military action against a Middle Eastern country, according to a text poll. A separate poll conducted via text message for the Washington Post, more than half of Americans disapprove of the strikes, 52% opposing. Now go to the next one, a Reuters Ipsos poll conducted over the weekend, which closed, if you go to that next one if you can, which closed before the casualties, found that 55% of Republicans approved the strikes, but 42% said they would be less likely to support the attacks if they resulted in American troops being harmed or killed. So you have almost half of Republicans saying, no, we're not going to go for this if Americans are killed.
Hey, you know there's going to be a vote on this. This is going to be the issue of the campaign.
Yeah, that is absolutely. You're absolutely
this will
right.
be it. And you know, we criticize a lot of the principle of absolute democracy. It's always a majority, but we do look for opinion and prevailing ideas, and the ideas now are changing. And I think this campaign could get very, very interesting because it'll all be on what this administration has been doing in foreign policy. I think, still there's the inflation problem that all they have to do if they want to win is tie this foreign policy disaster into the problems that every mother and person that's shot are yelling and screaming about how I can't afford anything. Well, we can't afford those wars either. Even if we say, oh, they were going to attack our friends and we had to go and rescue them before they attacked our friends because then they would attack us, all that nonsense. So
well, I drive by the gas station every morning because that's sort of my barometer. It's up 50 cents per gallon. But you make a great point on the vote, the War Powers vote on the floor, because hear me out on this one. If I were Trump right now, and of course they think they're winning and everything's going, but they know there's a big problem. I would be praying for Congress to vote to force the troops out because that could be his off-ramp. Well, I guess Congress voted against it. I'll have to take them out. No more dead Americans, It would be actually a real gift to Trump to have this vote.
A lot of them know the truth. So it's a contest between telling the truth or, doing exactly what you say, stand up to it. And unfortunately, in Washington, it isn't a place that encourages truth.
Yeah, not much.
Whether it's the Congress or whether it's Republican leadership or Democratic leadership, there's an inclination always to change the story because they're so obsessed with the next election that they would not vote for the truth. They have to be convinced it's not going to be very popular. But this is our point. It isn't very popular.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
stupid. It's not right. It's illegal. It's immoral. Unconstitutional. And yet we march on. They don't come to the conclusion you just mentioned. You know, if they're so concerned about it, why don't we just tell them, look, we're not here for this. We're not the. Well, they've already said. Most presidents always say, we're not the policemen of the world unless we're called to duty, and then we are the policemen of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna close out, Dr. Paul, with kind of a soft rollout here, and a lot of it's just because we've been thrown off track by what's been happening, but it's pretty exciting development for us, and I think it's really neat. And that's that we have an affiliate sponsor of the Ron Paul Liberty Report. And it's not just any sponsor, it's someone very special, Phil Pippen. He was involved in your campaigns, and he has a company called Moon Does Artisan Coffee. And here, by the way, is, you can see that right there, the Ron Paul Liberty Report Revolution Blend. Now, this is a special roast and blend of coffee, Dr. Paul, that they have formulated for us. I've worked with Phil to get what I think is the right roast, and I think it's terrific. I've drank it. I drink it. I think it's good. It's a high-end coffee, Dr. Paul. Yeah, it's a little more expensive, but it's worth it. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper than that burned-up garbage you get at Starbucks. So I will have a link in the description, and I will have a better way of getting to the link soon. We've just been kind of bombarded these past couple days. But it's neat. The description of the blend: declare your independence from mainstream conformist coffee, a unique pairing of organically grown Central American Indonesian coffee beans, custom roasted to produce a complex, rich, and smooth coffee, will energize the liberty movement to end the Fed and expose the deep state agenda. So, and they're out here in Texas too, Dr. Paul. So
That's wonderful. I like this idea.
Yeah.
And maybe we could find some of that. Maybe we could have a little time at our rally, our conference. Say maybe they could come and have a cup of coffee.
Cheap some coffee.
And talk about fun things.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And the great thing about it is, for every bag you buy, he's going to give a little bit of the profits to the show, which will help us. You get to help us continue with the show and have a great cup of coffee. So it's a win-win. So check it out. We'll have more info about it later. It's just kind of an abbreviated soft rollout.
Very
So
good.
over to you, Dr. Paul.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. I thank you for coming to see us and visit with us and to help us spread this message. That is the way that we have to convince people. There's attitudes that are very important. The Congress is secondary to that. The attitude of the majority of the people will have an effect on Congress, but the political people that have influence on Congress, the people who have the propaganda and who get all the money and all the special interests, they have the upper hand because they tell the members of Congress and the president, if you don't do it our way, we won't give you any money and you'll lose your seat. You won't be there to do all those good things you're doing. So I think it's a wonderful thing that when you can get together with people of like-mindedness, because not only I think it's important, it also can be a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Thanks for watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Like and subscribe to help spread the message. And until next time, live free.
This country is in a revolution, and I happen to